Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, I'm Amy. I'm an alcoholic. First, I want to thank Casey for asking me to come here and speak. And I want to congratulate Dory and Audrey on their birthdays. I'm going to get my vitals out of the way really quick and tell you that I've been sober since Halloween of 1983, which gives me a little over 15 years. I was 14 years old when I got sober. I've not found it necessary to put a drink or a drug in my body since the first day I got here. And then I'll just go into the normal deal of what it was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. I was born and raised in Santa Monica, and I'm one of 5 children. I grew up with one sister, and I was to never ever ask questions about the other 3. And I was born to a couple of alcoholics, drug addicts, and there was a lot of violence in the home when I was growing up. There were countless nights that my sister and I would wake up to my father beating up my mom and being drunk and throwing furniture and clothing and appliances out the front door. We lived on the 2nd story of an apartment building, and it was scary, and it made me angry and afraid and resentful. And I guess maybe they thought that I was too young to remember any of this stuff. And I can tell you right now, I remember taking a bath in the kitchen sink. So if you have children and you're still practicing out there, don't underestimate their memory. It was bad. But the thing is that everybody in the apartment building did the same thing. So I thought this was normal. This was how you did life. And I remember from a very early age that I wanted nothing to do with alcohol, and I knew that it was ruining my role models, my gods, so to speak, and I promised myself that I would never be like them. My mother wasn't as violent as my dad. She was a cop caller, and he would come home and hit her, and he would fall asleep, and the cops would get there and they would beat him while he was sleeping, and he would tell me things like, I'm going to go on a fishing trip. He would be gone for 2 weeks and never come home with fish. And my mother just tried to be parental, and she tried to set rules down, and she tried to be strict, and then she would drink periodically, and she would get lenient again, and I just really didn't have a lot of respect for her. And I watched her cheat on my dad, and the regular alcoholic dysfunctional stuff that you see growing up. And like I said, I didn't want to be like them. My father quit drinking in 1972, and my mother continued to drink. My dad, like I said, was a violent drunk. My mother, when she drank, my mother's from Rochester, New York. My dad's born and raised in Venice. And when my mother drank, she turned into a British woman. She would have this accent. I don't know where it came from. So I saw that alcohol made you violent and made you somebody that you were not. And neither one of these things were attractive to me. Now, I remember my mom smoking, and I would sit at the foot of her bed and watch TV with her, and her hand would be hanging over the mattress, and I could smell the smoke on her fingers, and I thought that was disgusting, and I wanted nothing to do with cigarettes either. And I just had this whole plan for myself, and I really felt that I was lacking in love. My home was lacking love, and I don't know if this was alcoholism prior to putting a drink in my body, but I felt that hole that we all have. And I guess when I was a kid, I tried to fill it up with imaginary friends and playing and disobeying and not coming in the house before the sun went down. And I had my way. My alcoholism was coming out in its own little ways, and I would do things like to try to find love. My mother had this record album, and on the cover of this album, there was a man embracing a woman, and it looked like they were naked. And I would play this song on this album, and I have no idea who the artist was, but I would run across my bedroom, and I would embrace my pillow, and I would pretend like I was giving it this long, sensual kiss, and it was filling up that hole in my gut, Or I would do things like when the movie Grease came out, I would imagine all the girls outside of my windows, tell me more, And I was looking for love. I was looking somehow to be filled up, and at 6 years old, I smoked pot. And my father, although he had stopped drinking, he continued to snort cocaine, smoke pot, shoot heroin, and my mother was drinking, and because it was so in the family, we would go to Yosemite every year for a couple weeks during the summer, and my cousins, we married into a Spanish family, so there was about 800 of us, and we'd all go to Yosemite for 2 weeks out of the year, and I got high with a bunch of my cousins, and I can tell you I don't remember very much of that experience, except for that it didn't scare me, and it wasn't alcohol, and it didn't have the effect on me that it did on my mom and dad, so I thought, this is okay. By the time I was 8, I was inhaling Pam that you spray on your frying pans. My parents would go out of town and leave me with my sister, and she hated me. My sister just hated me. I took all the attention away from her, and she would have to bring me along with her wherever she went, and there was a lot of parties that she was going to. She was getting pretty well into her disease at this time, and she would have to bring me with her, and she would stick me in the closet at these parties, and I was so grateful for walk-in closets, and I would climb the walls, and one time I got out of the closet, and this guy, I don't know, I must have been 8 or 9 years old, and he taught me how to smoke pot out of bongs, and my disease was progressing rapidly, and I tried cocaine at 11, smoking PCP. I lit my boyfriend's shoes on fire while he was wearing them, and I was left on my mother's front porch in a shopping cart a few times, and I still wouldn't drink though, But the thing about this disease is that it is progressive, and I was constantly looking for something that would take me away from the need of love, or whatever it was. And at 11, I had my first drink. I used to identify as an addict alcoholic, but I think it's a bit redundant. It's like saying I'm from New York, New York. And so I just put it all into alcoholic. And I believe today that alcohol brought my bottom right up to me, and that's why I only drank for 3 years, because in those 3 short years I'd been arrested twice. I was put in juvenile hall. I was left in the gutter by some friends of mine on Ventura Boulevard, and I was picked up at 2 in the morning for drunk in public and put in juvenile hall, and my parents just couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and my dad had tried Alcoholics Anonymous in the 70s when he first sobered up from alcohol, and he has a 2nd edition big book that just collected dust sitting around the house, and I guess he figured it wasn't for him. And there was never talk of AA in my home. There was never sobriety in my home. It got pretty bad at my house, and I was ditching school in 4th grade and ditching school all the way up into junior high, and failing miserably out of school, fighting with my mother, being kicked out of the house, living in abandoned schools. My mother would have yard sales on the weekend, and she would sell all my belongings, and I would show up at school on Monday, and my friends would be wearing my clothes, thanking me for my ghetto blaster and my cool tapes, and I just resented that woman so much. You know, she's the perfect private detective mom. Every time I did something, she would catch me, and I thought she was so hypocritical, because if anybody had a problem, it was my parents, you know. I was much too young to be an alcoholic, so I thought. So I'm living in this abandoned school, and I have no relationship with my mother. My father is my only hope for love. He's the only thing that resembles God in my life, and he and I started getting loaded together, and the only way that I was to communicate with my mother is if I was to drink with her, which only happened a few times, and I let her know while we were drunk that I'd been raped and I'd been molested and I'd been through these things, because I knew in the morning she wouldn't remember. And I was a blackout drinker. I ended up in the backs of cars wearing just a bathing suit top, wondering how I got there, who I was with the night prior, and why did they leave me there, and whose car was this, you know, and why did they park on a busy street? Still thinking I'm much too young to be an alcoholic. Whenever I saw stickers like Easy Does It, I thought it meant, whoa, whoa, slow down, don't hit my car. I didn't know what AA was. I was living in that school, and my dad got a hold of me, and he said, look, I really love you, and it would be okay for you to go out there and party and do it up if you could just maintain. And I could never maintain. And he said, I need you to, I'm going to give you a choice. You can come home and try to make it work out with your mom once again, or you can live on your own with your friends in this school or wherever you choose to. And if you choose the latter of the two, I'm going to let you go. And like I said, he was all I had left. And I thought about it for a good, hard 3 minutes, and I said, it's okay, you can let me go. And he said, okay, and he got tears in his eyes, and I was tough, and I was 14, and I thought I had it going on, and all I had to my name was a pair of Levi's, a pair of Vans, an Iron Maiden t-shirt. I weighed 98 pounds. I was doing so much cocaine. I was bleeding out of my ears. I had a hole in my nose, and the sinuses in my forehead were protruding. I would stand outside of liquor stores and pimp alcohol, and all I did was drink and do drugs and hang out with my friends, and I thought that they were everything to me, and school didn't matter, love didn't matter anymore, parents didn't matter, family didn't matter. You don't have much to lose when you're 14 and you get sober. It's not, oh, I lost my Barbie townhouse, I lost my Alva skateboard, you know. The thing is that I didn't have a chance at anything. I didn't know what self-esteem meant. I didn't know what self-respect or dignity or integrity meant, but I didn't have a chance at these things if I kept going at the pace that I was. So he said, okay, let's go back to school, and we'll get you checked out, we'll get your records and turn in your books, get your things out of your locker, and I'll let you go. I'll give you $20 and you're on your own, kid. And we went back to that school, and he spoke to the nurse there, and she told him about a drug rehabilitation institution in Pasadena called Pasadena Community Hospital. And he looked at me and he said, your choices are changing. You can either go to this rehab for a couple of weeks, or you can go back to juvenile hall. And I really don't like juvenile hall. I don't like oatmeal. I'm not into rotten oranges, and lots of prejudice there. And I wasn't raised with any prejudice, so I wanted to stay clear of that place. So I said, okay, I'll go to this rehab if I'm only going for 2 weeks, and you better let me smoke cigarettes, because by this time I'd been smoking for 3 years. Excuse me. He said, okay, that's fine. And we went home, packed myself a bag, and drove me to that rehab, and it seemed so far away, so far away. Pasadena just seemed so far away. My parents, I should say, moved to the Valley in 1977, and not only now was I searching for love, but I was geographically undesirable, because when you live at the beach, it's all about valleys go home, and I was really not liking my life, so I figured I had nothing to lose. I'd try this place out. I ended up being there for 2 months, just shy of 2 months. And they really tried to put me back in shape. They put me on a nutrition program to get me to gain some weight. They had me in meetings around the clock. They had me in pajamas for 2 weeks. I couldn't leave that place. They had me doing biofeedback so you can learn to get high naturally. I thought that was a crock of crap. They had me working out and making things in arts and crafts, and then they started bringing my family in to do some intervention stuff there, and I got to get honest with my parents and tell them about every single substance I'd ever put in my body and all the things I'd been through and the molestation that I had from a cousin of mine. And my mother literally puked on the floor. My dad got up and started punching things, and they had no idea. You know, they were so into their own disease and their own denial and everything else that they couldn't believe it. And I told them that I was resentful for not being able to ask questions like, where are my brothers and sisters, and why can't I ask about them, and why haven't I ever felt comfortable to come to you and let you know what's going on with me, and why did you fail as parents, you know? And I was still blaming, and I was still resentful. But we started learning how to communicate, and I got out of there, and I had to go right into high school. I was in my first semester of 10th grade, and I was scared to death. I thought the party was over, and everybody I knew drank and did drugs, and all I ever did was ditch school, you know? So I didn't know what to do, and I thought I was going to be looked at like a dork, and I was going to end up with a bunch of pencils in my pocket and wearing flooding pants, and what I came to realize is that the party's not over, it's just a different party, but I was scared to death. And what happened was I realized I wasn't attracted to these people that were my friends anymore, and they weren't attracted to me, and we had nothing in common with one another anymore, and it was okay, you know? And I got myself into an outpatient program. I found that there was a couple of kids that went there that were also in my high school, so I went to that nurse, and I told her I wanted to start a meeting there. She said, great, let's do it. So I started a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in my high school, and I made myself available to speak on panels at other high schools, and I started doing H&I work, and I started going to a lot of meetings on my moped. You know. My parents have always been very, they've always backed me up with anything that has to do with sobriety. I mean, my curfew I got a better curfew, and 8 months of sobriety, they bought me that moped, and every time I would get another 30 days, they'd get me little trinkets or something, you know, just keep her that way. I got as active as a 14, 15-year-old kid could get, and I started really liking my sobriety, and I started creating and achieving goals for myself. I wasn't going to school anymore for mom and dad, I was doing it for me, and you told me to get a sponsor, so I got a sponsor. You told me to not get into a relationship for my first year, so I went ahead and got in one for the entire first year, and then I dumped him because I was 15. And I've grown up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was scared to death to drink again. I was scared to death to lose what little I had gained in such a short amount of time. And I was so attracted to the whites of your eyes. I was so attracted to the fact that you spoke in complete sentences and that you were sincerely interested in what I had to say. And when you asked me how I was, you didn't leave before I said fine, you know? Definitely a program of attraction. So I got that sponsor, and I had a boyfriend, and I was getting some cool clothes, and I was hanging out wearing, you know, lots of eyeshadow and lots of rings, and had big hair, and had stonewashed jeans, and, you know, I was trendy, I was cool. And my sponsor, she slept with my boyfriend. So I thought, this isn't right. So I let go of her, and then I got another sponsor, and she ended up drinking a month after I asked her to sponsor me. So I got to get another sponsor, so I did. And 3 weeks later, she asked me to sponsor her instead. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do this sponsorship thing. These people are fallible, you know. I'm going to rely solely on God. And I had worked the first 4 steps with those sponsors. I had read bits and pieces of that book, but I would sit in meetings and I would share in meetings that I'd worked the steps, that I'd read the book, and people would come up to this podium or any podium and start quoting pages out of the big book, and I'd nod my head like I knew what they were talking about, because I was scared to death to tell them myself, because now I'm getting some time sober, and now I've got all these friends that are young, and they're coming in and they're looking up to me, so my ego's getting involved. And now I'm relying solely on God. So I'm starting to suffer from untreated alcoholism. And I did it for 10 years. I went without a sponsor for 10 years. I got into a relationship in that 10-year period, and I was with that man for 6 years, and he taught me what love was not. And I learned that I could walk through the fire and not get burned. And I read a lot of inspirational books. And I read anything but that big book because it put me to sleep, and I couldn't identify. I didn't want to identify. And I read a lot of things like The Tao of Pooh and Celestine Prophecy and Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and I thought these things were all so wonderful. In the 80s, when you were sober, it was all about who had the bigger crystal, you know? It's ridiculous. And I would go to the canyon in the valley, Browns Canyon, and I would play my flute and I would write poetry to God and thank Him for another sober day of clarity and inspiration. And meanwhile, I'm at home cursing my mother, starting to ditch school again, actually dropped out of school, and I'm suffering. I'm suffering because my ego's in the way and I can't tell on myself, and I'm getting some time sober, and I'm scared, and there's nothing worse than that, you know, there's just nothing worse than being sober and not working the program, not being in the middle of this thing, you know what I mean, just always being on the outside and pretending like you have it going on. So I dumped that guy after 6 years, and everything was okay. You know, I just figured, well, I have God, and that's all I need, and I feel that, you know, a man without God is like a teenager in a powerful car, and there's so many people in Alcoholics Anonymous, they just get drunk, or they pretend like they've got it, and they're judgmental, and I'm just wanting to be here and record this experience. I don't want to judge anybody, and I'm just going to work it this way. And I just kept getting more and more angry, and I finally did go back to school, and I graduated valedictorian, honor graduate of my class, and I would do some things right and some things wrong, and I would take 2 steps forward and 5 steps back, and it was just constantly a struggle. And the earthquake happened, and I was in college, and I lost my apartment, and FEMA told me that they would give me a list of cities that I could move to, and they would pay a portion of my rent for a year and a half. So Venice was one of those cities, and I wanted to go home. And at this time I had 10 years of sobriety. And I lived at 38 rows, 6 houses from the sand, for $64 a month for a year and a half. And work, beach. And I was like having guys over and doing my own thing, and, you know, come over and I'll read you the big book type of thing. We'll talk about God. I'll keep you sober. And I met a guy who he had 9 months of sobriety, almost 9 months of sobriety, and I had, like I said, 10 years. He was everything that I was not attracted to. He's covered in tattoos. He had an earring in his eyebrow. When it was like 30 degrees outside, he'd be in a slingshot, like a wife beater tank top. Being all tough, you know? And yeah, we'd be in his El Camino, and he'd drive by meetings and slow down and turn up his radio, and I'd be like this. I was so embarrassed. And but the thing is that he made me laugh, and even in when I was drinking, if you make me laugh, I've got to take my clothes off, you know. So he was a funny man. And I was attracted to that, so we would do the hip, slick, and cool meetings, you know, the dog and pony shows. And we'd go to Ohio Street on Saturday night We'd go to Second and Hill on Wednesday night. We'd do rodeo, you know, money, property, prestige, all those people that are afraid to tell them themselves. And in that quest of God in those 10 years, I was constantly trying to seek people that were consistent in their personality and attitude as they were when they were on their knees praying, but I wasn't attracting that because I was so ego. 4 months later, I got engaged to that guy, and a year after that, we got married, and when we got home from our honeymoon, I found out I was pregnant. And I was pregnant with a little girl, and I was an emotional wreck. I would have divorced me if I had been him. I accused him of making us white trash because there was no Italian dressing in the refrigerator. And I put him through it, man. I just put him through it. And he said to me, when our daughter was 3 months old, he said, look, you know what? If we don't start working this program, we're going to get a divorce. And that little girl doesn't stand a chance. You've got to move back to your mother's house. You've got to start working your steps. I'm going to move to a friend's house. I'm going to start working my steps, get new sponsors. Let's just start back at step one, back to basics. And we'll give this a 6-month time cap, and then we'll come back together. And I thought, you have 10 years less than me. What are you, out of your mind? You don't know anything. Okay, fine, you know, whatever. He made the money. Oh, also, I hated authority, and he was a police officer. So I moved back to my mom's. It took 3 months, and he went and did that. He got a sponsor, and I said that I did, but I didn't. And we moved back in together, and I tried to act right. I tried to have good actions. The thing was that I was lying, and I will lie when the truth will set me free. Straight out, I am an alcoholic to the bone, and this ism was killing me. Although I didn't want to put alcohol in my body, I wanted to lie, and I wanted to deceive him, and I wanted a divorce, and I wanted to yell at my mom, and I wanted to keep blaming, and it's much more than just the alcohol, you know. He joined the Pacific Group. But this SOB, you know, and he was constantly active. Got to go to a watch, got to go to the yard, got to go hear my sponsor speak, got to go do this, commitments, and I'm on the couch pregnant again. When my daughter was 8 months old, I got pregnant again, and I heard somebody say this, and it's so funny. Yeah, he was planned at the last minute. I couldn't take my life anymore, and he was so happy. And what the Pacific Group did to this man was they took that tattooed, slingshot-wearing, eyebrow-having, cool guy, and he sold his surfboard to buy groceries for the house. He sold the El Camino and bought a minivan. He started wearing long sleeves. He started wearing a shirt and tie when he spoke at meetings. And he took the jewelry out of his head. He's always been very financially responsible. But there was just this maintenance that was happening, and he was my Eskimo. And he was saving my sobriety, my spiritual sobriety, my emotional sobriety, and he didn't know it and I didn't know it, but I needed to follow that guy. And I hated admitting it, man. I hated admitting it, because if you give him an inch, he'll run for a mile. He's 5 years sober. I wanted what he had, you know, and once again, our marriage was on the rocks, and he said, you got to do something, man. You got to get off the couch. You got to stop hanging out with the drama mamas, you know, and start over again. And so I had been introduced to a woman named Karen Garrison through him. My husband's sponsor is a man named Don Newcomb, who had a very tragic accident not long ago, and when he was in the hospital, I met Karen G, and I just listened to her talk, and I watched her, and I wanted what she had. And I called her one day and I said, my marriage is ending and I met you and you seem comfortable and I'm unhappy and I don't know what to do and I haven't had a sponsor. And she said, do you want me to sponsor you or what? Like, let's cut to the chase. And I said, well, yeah, okay. And she said, go get a paper and pen. And she gave me a whole list of things to do. Pray on your knees every morning and every night. Read 2 pages of that book a day. Call me every day. Start at step 1 again. Get to 4 meetings a week. I know you've got 2 babies at home. I want you at 4 meetings at least a week. I want you to get 2 commitments. I want you to show up. I want you to wear a dress when you speak or take a cake or have a commitment. If you can't make it to your commitment, replace yourself. And just say what you mean and mean what you say, you know? And okay, I'd surrendered. And I was willing to go to any lengths. And I've been working with that woman for a year and a half now. And my recovery has never been stronger. My respect for Alcoholics Anonymous is renewed. I talked so much smack about the Pacific Group for 14 years without ever having been to one of their meetings, without ever having met Clancy. I talked so much dirt about him, I never even knew what he looked like, you know? All contempt prior to investigation, and it was killing me. And now, today, I honestly have what it takes to help the person newer than me. I've told on myself, and I tell on myself time and time again. I call that sponsor every day, and I don't debate with her for 1 minute. I don't argue what she says. I have and practice an honest humility. At no time do I want to think that I am better or worse than the person sitting next to me. The promises are starting to come true for me. I'm at the tail end of step 9. I sit down, I'm going to be honest here, I sit down maybe 3 nights a week and do a 10th step, a written 10th step before I go to bed. I still hit my knees. And when things get bad, I still go to God, you know. I don't have the perfect marriage. I'm not the best wife. I'm not the best mom, but I'm the best mom and the best wife that I can be, you know. I got to ask questions finally with my parents about all those brothers and sisters, and now I have a relationship with all of them. And the youngest one, he was a product of an affair, and he found us when he was 25 years old. He found us in '94, and he died of AIDS 2 years after that. And I got to experience that guy. He showed up at my front door, and he looked exactly like me. It was amazing. And there's been so many gifts in my sobriety. And I have a relationship today with my mother that no friend could touch. Not one. My father, he got sober a month after I did. And we've been trudging this road together. My mother refuses to be diagnosed with alcoholism or label herself as anything less than perfect. She came to a meeting once and she said, my God, those people need a drink. She's hysterical. I love my life. I love my life. I show up for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I try to act different from how I feel when I don't feel right, you know. I try to be consciously awake at all times. And it's hard to do when I'm driving in LA. It's hard to do when I've got a 18-month-old and a little girl that's 3 at home that are constantly challenging. But my daughter does things like she'll stop and she'll say, do you feel the wind? You know? And that's what it's about, you know? They remind me what it's really about. I read something in a book, and it's a quote that I've taken on, and I'd love to share with people, because if you're new in the room tonight, and I know that nobody raised their hands as newcomers, but if you have less or even more time than me, it's helped me. And it is that if you come to the edge of all of the light that you have inside, and you have to take a step into the darkness of the unknown, believe that one of 2 things are going to happen to you. Either there's going to be something solid for you to stand on, or you're going to be taught how to fly. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. At different times I've flown, and at different times I've just stood still and felt solid and good inside, and I can look you in the eye, and I have an honest love for people, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. And I don't know if that's as a result of my 11-year waitressing career or Alcoholics Anonymous, or maybe just a combination of both. And today when I get in trouble and when, say, my marriage is shaky and I don't want to do it anymore, for example, we were being threatened with divorce about a year ago. And I was really scared. You know, I got 2 kids, and I don't have a trade. You know, I'm not aspiring waitress. You know, what's that? I was going to my sponsor, and I was going to all my friends, and I was talking to the girls that I sponsor, and they all had opinions on what I should do, and I was talking to different attorneys, and I had all these people in my head and by my side. They were all there for me, but there were so many things that I didn't really know what to do. So in those in those cases, that's when I go to God, because he's very simple and very black and white, and he's a perfect gentleman. And I'm feeding my son Jake, and he's got food all over his face. And I just start praying, and I say, God, you know, I don't know what to do about my life. I don't know what to do. I'm scared to death. I've got these 2 kids. I'm only 28, and And he said, Amy, just feed Jake. Just feed Jake. Right here, right now. That's what it's all about. And as a result of right here, right now, day after day, I have the attitude that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life. And like my sponsor says, I'm not the miracle. Alcoholics Anonymous is the miracle, and I just got to be a part of it. And that way I get to practice that humility, that I am who I am when I'm on my knees, as I am standing in front of you right here. So I think this is all I've got. I know that there's maybe 8 more minutes left, but I'm empty. But I'm very full. Thank you for letting me share.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.